Christian missionaries use deception all the time to convert.
Well, in light of the fact that I have a brother who's a Christian missionary, I'd like you to back up what you just said.
For example, I mean, they take some of the Jewish prophets like Isaiah out of context. The original, which is written in Hebrew, these missionaries, almost all of them can't even read the original. They don't even understand it. They sit in front of an English translation which totally butchers the original, and it's taken totally out of context. I'll give you an example. Isaiah 7:14 says uses the Hebrew word almah, a young woman shall give birth. If you look in the Christian Bibles, they translate that as virgin. There's a separate Hebrew word, batulah, which means virgin. But they have to take this word, Hebrew word almah, which is young woman, in every single place in the Hebrew text, it's young woman. And that one place, they have to translate it as virgin to make their case for a virgin birth. That's just one of many examples. They take Isaiah 53 completely out of context because they read they don't read the entire, they don't look at the big picture. They don't read many of the stanzas. They just take a couple of lines and disregard the lines that came before that in Isaiah 53. So those are some of the techniques and manipulations of the original Hebrew text that these Christian missionaries are using to convert Jews and others. And how do you respond to that?
Very simply. You have just told me that Isaiah 7:14 uses a Hebrew word for young woman, but those dishonest English-speaking missionaries translate that word virgin.
Right.
Have I heard you correctly?
Well, yes.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'd use the word, I would say, I don't know if dishonest is the right word. I would call the Christians who translate, I'm not trying to come down against them. I'm saying that they're mistranslating it to serve their own purposes.
Really?
That's how I would put it.
All right, fine. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament. The translation is the Septuagint is a Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament that was done before Jesus was even born. When you read the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament that was translated even before Jesus was born, you will notice that the Hebrew scholars translated Isaiah 7:14 into the Greek, and they used the Greek word for virgin in their Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament, which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are incredibly intellectually dishonest when you stand out here and say that the translation of Isaiah 7:14 to use the word virgin is a dishonest Christian corruption of the text, in light of the fact that the Jewish people, before Jesus was even born, translated Isaiah 7:14 into the Greek from the Hebrew and used the Greek word for virgin. You see, sir, your accusations are so fallacious, they are so poorly thought out, it's scary.
You're missing something.
I'm not missing a thing. I have studied that specific verse both in the Septuagint and in the Hebrew and Greek. I'm not missing a thing.
2 points here, Cliff. Number one, those Jewish scholars who wrote the Septuagint also changed several other words from the original to the Septuagint purposely, because they knew that text was going to be used for idolatry and by non-Jews, and they specifically wanted to change it, because if they had not changed it, if they had made it exact, it would have remained a holy Torah, the same as the original is holy. They specifically wanted to make it holy. Not only that, they were under the gun by the Greeks. Okay, it wasn't a free academic kind of association where they're trying to render a perfectly literal translation. When you study your history, you ask any reputable rabbi or any scholars of this time period, and you'll find out that I'm correct. The second point is, why do you have to go to the Septuagint or any other translation? What I'm saying is, go to the original source.
That's right. And the original source can legitimately, with great intellectual integrity, be translated young woman or virgin.
No.
Yes, it can.
No, it
Absolutely,
cannot.
yes. It certainly
The
can.
word for virgin is
Yes, it can.
Betula is the Hebrew
You're
word for
wrong.
virgin.
I've studied the issue very specifically.
I'm not wrong.
You
I know.
are
I think-
wrong. I know it. I've studied that
Do you
one.
speak Hebrew?
I had to learn Hebrew in seminary. It was a very painful process for me. Yes, I had to go through it. And I had to study that, and I studied that particular verse because at USC out in Los Angeles, a student who was studying Hebrew came to me with that specific issue and said Isaiah 7:14 is a mistranslation that you Christians have twisted. And I said, gosh, that's a great point. I'd never thought of it. And I had to go back and carefully study Isaiah 14. And when you look at it in the Septuagint, which was the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament before Jesus was born, so there was no bias about, hey, come on, let's make this text fit Jesus. It was translated virgin by the Jewish people.
There are a number of, again,
That's fine.
as I said, there
No,
are
I don't want to talk about it. Come on, there got to be other questions. I'm not going to. You and I obviously disagree.
Also another
And if you guys, the court is open. You guys go and study the Hebrew in Isaiah 7:14. I'm telling you, it can be translated young woman or it can be translated virgin.
Amen.
And the Hebrew people, before Jesus was even born, when they translated the Hebrew Isaiah into the Greek Isaiah, used the Greek word for virgin in Isaiah 7:14. Go and study it for yourself. So don't come on with me with this line that it was the Christians that twisted and corrupted that text. They didn't.
There's even one version of the New Testament that translates it as young woman.
That's right, the Revised Standard Version does.
And
that's because the word can be translated young woman.
And
That's
there are
fine.
many Christian scholars who would tell you that translating it as virgin is a blatant mistranslation, Cliff.
Yeah, there are many Christian scholars who believe that Jesus is still dead. I'm not impressed with Christian scholars. I'm impressed with scholars who do good work. And a lot of Christian scholars, quote unquote, do lousy work.